Welcome to Thoroughbred Racing Forecast Kentucky Derby Special, the fastest 30 minutes on television. Coming to you from fabulous Las Vegas. Thoroughbred Racing Forecast, starring Dennis Tobler.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Thoroughbred Racing Forecast. My name is Dennis Tobler, and this is our 2021 Kentucky Derby Special version, and we are so proud to be back on the air. We have fought through the pandemic, and it seems like we're back to normal now with May 1st, the first Saturday in May, being Kentucky Derby Day, and we couldn't be happier to be on the air to bring you the insights and information. So before we go any further, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Trip Mitchell, who's been with me for all the shows along the way. Trip, I think since 1992, this may be the best show yet because of the guests we have on. So welcome to the show, Trip.
Well, we're really excited to have a chance to talk to a comedian, horse owner, entrepreneur, raconteur. Anything else, Mark, that comes on your list of qualifications for this show?
I can lose money on horses at any track in the country, major league or minor league. I'm that good at this. In terms of, let me take the qualifications one at a time. I pretend to own horses and they pretend to run. So in terms of being a true horse owner, I'm in it on the fractional side, as are most of the small timers like me in this business. You know, one of the amazing things about owning a racehorse of any kind is all your friends, anybody that meets you wants to know, does your horse run in the Kentucky Derby? And you have to tell them, my horses don't run on weekends. My horses run Tuesday afternoon at 4:30 as part of an all maiden special weight pick forward that the track is hoping nobody hits for a month. I mean, that's where my horses run.
Okay, Mark, and I'll give you some advice as someone who lived in Vegas for 25 years. If you're performing commodities, if you're performing comedy at 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, your career's in trouble.
Well, you know, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. It's my hometown. I live in horse racing culture. This is who we are and what we do. This is our major league sport. We don't have all the other major league sports around the country. This is what we have. This is our deal. And Louisville goes wild during Derby week. Now wild in Las Vegas during any kind, like Halloween in Las Vegas, that's a wild week. You have naked people doing horrible things to each other in the street, and that's just the casino staff, okay? Well, when I say we go crazy in Louisville, Kentucky, what that means is when you get a double dip cone at Dairy Queen, you get sprinkles and nuts at no extra charge. That's us going wild. That's our idea of a big week. But the city has been immersed in horse culture almost since its founding. And this is the week where we get to show that to the world. So we take it pretty seriously here. You come to our airport, it's horses top to bottom every day of the year, not just Derby week. And that kind of that infuses the city with a sense of this is an important thing to us year round. So especially though Derby week, we get to show it to the outsiders, but it's our game the rest of the year.
In Kentucky, and the increase in the revenues that's coming in via the different platforms that they have set up for betting, what do you say is the most popular platform to bet on that the Kentuckians or the people in that area bet on? And when they do bet, do they bet on apps? Are they able to have phone apps to bet into that particular platform?
Yes, they do. They have advanced deposit wagering platforms top to bottom. Twin Spires is the most popular here. You can get them all here, of course. Interestingly enough, the technology is the gateway into racing for the younger people, and that's the ocean they swim in, is doing all this on their phone. For guys my age, of course, I mean, I'm a little more old school. When you're talking to someone who once bet on jockey Ruben Hernandez because I bought a Ruben sandwich from a man named Hernandez. I mean, so I've got a much older school approach to this type thing. But to the young people who can look on their mobile device and go, let's go to Churchill Downs today and bet, that's exactly what the track wants, because that is the most efficient and profitable way for them to handle money. It certainly isn't by us handing over our $20 at a pop to a live teller. But, you know, horse racing it's tradition bound to the point of being hide bound. And they still have a long way to go before they keep guys like me out who want to take actual cash to the track and turn it into more cash if we can.
No, I agree with you. I don't know whether it's our age or whether it's not our age, but there's not anything more fun than going to the racetrack, watching the horses run, especially if you might have a piece of one of them that's running.
And you know who's going to be crushed by all this are the guys who look down at the floor to try to find tickets that were thrown away that are winners, because you can't see a ticket with a footprint on your mobile device. So it's going to kill the uncashed winning ticket guys who are proud of these tracks, of course.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What is the percentage of spectators are they going to allow?
I think it was up to something like a fourth to a third, which still puts Churchill Downs in the 50 to 60,000 person range. I mean, this is an enormous facility. Those of you who have been there remember how big it is. This is the largest uninterrupted grandstand in the world. But if you've never been to Churchill Downs, the enormity of the place really takes you by surprise. You can't imagine what that huge grandstand looks like when it's got 75,000 people in the stands and another 50,000 in the infield. But they're going to be about a third to a fourth capacity, I think. And I promise you, the handle this year, because of how weird last year was, the handle will far exceed last year's, will exceed the year before. That remains to be seen. But I have to believe Churchill's had 2 years now to adapt to the digital nature of information and wagering, and they'll probably exceed 2 years ago.
One of the problems we have being in Las Vegas and all of these betting platforms these days is, for one, we have a state law that does not allow us to bet out of the state. So we're not able to take advantage of Twin Spires, Naira, TVG, or Stronix, or any of those bet platforms. So we have developed our own platform that we operate that serves 26 states, where we offer full track odds and a rebate. So that's something that we're going to jump into too, because we think the bettor is that important. And I see these platforms are moving around to the point where, heck, if us bettors in Las Vegas can't add to your Churchill Downs pool for Derby Day, and we can't add to Oaklawn Park's handle, it's going to hurt the handle in these places. And I just think the fighting back and forth on the betting platforms is really hurting the business. Of course, when they run like Churchill for the Derby, they're going to have humongous handle, and places like that. Well, other places where they have simulcast betting, they're going to have the big handle. But other days, you know, it seems like it's going to take away from it, because here in Vegas, we weren't able to bet the races at Churchill in the prep or Keeneland. We bet Keeneland, but we weren't able to bet Churchill or any of the preps.
Well, no industry can survive on one event a year, so that they will find a way to get to your money and have your money get to them where everybody's happy. This is still a relatively new business. It takes time. You know, the first advanced deposit wagering platform I went to, they offered me a free fondue set for depositing. So that it takes a while to get these people up to speed.
Yeah, that's true. And some of those bonuses that they offer aren't really much. Whereas in our situation, we're paying full track odds and we're giving back rebates. And in fact, rebates on horse racing in Nevada is illegal. So we have to operate outside the state of Nevada to get our gambling done now. So it's crazy.
If you're a numbers guy and you bet nothing but favorites at a 5% rebate house, you're very, very close to even on this. I mean, yes. You get much above that, and you can almost do a mathematical progression of profit with zero handicapping whatsoever. So it's interesting times coming up.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm glad to get your input on that, because we are very serious about this too. We're on the side of the gamblers always. You know, we think the gamblers are misrepresented at the horse track and in society and everywhere else. So we like this new outcome where everything is being accepted. Sports betting is becoming more popular. We like this.
I have to tell you, when I came to the love of horse racing, not only live in Louisville, but my family loves horse racing and we love to go to the track. My father, I remember as a small child, one of my father's favorite jokes was, Churchill Downs is the only place in Louisville where windows clean people.
Well, Mark, we've gotten very serious about the betting here. So let's go back. You're a professional comedian and you don't get a lot of those with a keen interest in horse racing. How did you start in comedy and how's it been for you?
Well, I've made my living as a comedian for over 40 years. I started out as a nightclub comic doing a fairly art X-rated show, and I graduated into doing nightclub comedy all over the country. Then I moved into corporate humor entertaining and cruise ships, and I do a lot of shows now at 55 plus communities where the audience looks embarrassingly a lot like me. So that was the progression of my career. I've had a few little things on TV, but I'm a live entertainer. I talk, people laugh. That's my mission statement. You go to my website, and that's what it's about. If you want someone to motivate, to educate, to train, you find somebody else. I talk, you laugh. That's my job. I've been doing this 40 years for a living. It's been great to me. It's beating the heck out of working for a living. I have to tell you that. It's just been wonderful. They pay me. They pay me. I go to a strange town, have a couple drinks, flirt with the pretty girls, and tell jokes, and I get a check when this is. I was going to do that anyway, and they started paying me for it. Apart from my family, every good thing that has happened to me in life has come to me as a result of stand-up comedy. I met my wife because I'm a comedian. I did a show in a nightclub in Savannah, Georgia. She sat in the front row, didn't laugh at a word I said, and I thought to myself, if she can't make you miserable, nobody can. Been married for 27 years to her. I've worked cruise ships all over the world. I've gotten to take my family places around the world I'd never go otherwise. And it's been great. And as a comedian, of course, I work at night. The horses run in the daytime. So when I was single and a lot more involved in going to the track every day, I would plan my comedy year around where the horses were. I'd spend the winters down in Florida and Louisiana, come up to the Midwest for spring and fall. Stay out of New York on general principles anyway, and just rotate back down south in the wintertime. But I've had great experiences in comedy related to horse racing and vice versa. I'll tell you a story about that. When my mother passed away, this was back in 1994. My family is Jewish. We're a Jewish family. And I wanted to say Kaddish for my mom. Now, those of you who are not Jewish will need to know that in Judaism, you say Kaddish when your parents, when they die, or a sibling, or a spouse, or a child. You go 11 months of mourning, where you go to synagogue. You're supposed to do it morning and afternoon. You try to do it every day and say the Kaddish prayer, which is a prayer that reaffirms life, and it's your way of memorializing your deceased relatives. So going back on the road after her funeral, I had trouble finding places that had morning services for me. When you could find that was a really good thing. Like if you're performing in Cleveland, no problem. If you're performing in Greenville, Mississippi, that's a problem. So it depended on what city I was in. Okay, so I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, and the nightclub I'm working is 2 blocks away from an ultra-Orthodox synagogue, which I can walk to in the morning at 7 o'clock to say Kaddish for my mother. And I'm thrilled about this. Yes, I'll set the alarm and I'll get up. I'm glad to do it. I start going there, and these people are ultra-Orthodox. I'm conservative Midwest. They're New York-based ultra-Orthodox down in Florida. So as far as they're concerned, I'm Episcopalian, okay? I'm nowhere near Jewish enough for these people. And the rabbi there is nudging me a little bit, giving me a little bit of a nudge every day about, am I as observant? Do I eat this? Do I eat that? And I've not had enough of this. Thursday, I'm there, and he says, our lesson today is about the Sanhedrin. Before we get started, our Devar Torah, which is a Torah lesson, I want to know what you all know about the Sanhedrin. We'll start with our guest from Kentucky, Mr. Klein. Well, I stand up and I say, Sanhedrin finished third to Seattle Slew in the 1977 Kentucky Derby. He went off at 14-1. He should have been 114-1, but every Jew in Kentucky bet on him. There's about $50,000. That was our Thoroughbred rabbi. And he left me alone after that, and we got along a lot better after that. In fact, he called me 3 days ago asking for my Derby pick this year, so we've become pretty good friends.
So you're good with him then. You're good with everybody at this point. Now, speaking of your Derby picks, give us a little analysis of what you see in the field this year.
As we were discussing, when you have a 20-horse field, it's impossible to peel those onion layers back for 20 horses as deeply as you'd like to, because they change so quickly as 3-year-olds. It's a fruitless exercise anyway. So I think the best approach for a casual handicapper like myself is to find the 2 or 3 horses that have a quality you look for, see if it stacks up with their numbers, with the people who are handling them, and if it makes sense. And on that basis, my Derby pick this year just won the Santa Anita Derby Rock Your World. John Sandler handles this horse. He'll have Rosario aboard, who won the Kentucky Derby on Orb. Sadler's training regimen for this horse was a plan to keep him away from Baffert's monster 2-year-olds in California and put him on the turf. Idea being, well, we won't let other horses break his heart till he's ready to run. They put him on the turf. His first dirt race was the Santa Anita Derby, and he waxed that field like a bikini line. I mean, he went to the front early, stayed there. What I loved about his style, the fractions were pretty fast up front, but they didn't tail off at the end. he powered through, and Rosario is known for being a great finishing jockey. And I think that combination of tactical speed and a good finishing jockey who's done this before, although Orb was a different type of horse. Orb was a come from behind horse, and Rock Your World is more of a pressing horse. But there's reasons for that, which relate to the point system, which we can probably get into at a deeper session. Anyway, Rock Your World has everything I look for in a horse. He's done well on the turf. He has turf breeding. He's a son of Candy Ride. And turf, I'm a sucker for good turf breeding in the Derby. It reminds me of Animal Kingdom, horses like that have good turf background. I love these horses in the Derby. They always seem to do pretty well. The long shots I like in the race. I had to make a couple notes here because they run in my head. Obesos, Greg Foley, a local trainer, trains Obesos. And this horse has been just training lights out at Churchill Downs. He's been impressing people in the morning like no other. They love how he looks there. So he feels very much at home. And Steve Asmussen has Midnight Bourbon. Interesting horse. He's not winning these grade ones, but he's paying his bills. He's finishing second, third in these grade 1, 2s, and 3s. But if you look at his numbers, whether you're looking at his buyer numbers or his internal fractions or his speed figures, they're getting better every race. He shows improvement every race statistically, and his form looks great. And they spelled Midnight correctly in his name, which means a lot to me as an English major. When they misspelled Pharaoh and American Pharaoh, that just broke my heart. That's just how can you make a mistake like that. So those are the 3 horses that I'm kind of concentrating on. 2 pretty live long shots, and Rock Your World's probably going to be your second choice. I think he should be the favorite in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I suppose the 2-year-old champion, Essential Quality, will be the favorite. That's what I'm anticipating. But I'm a little surprised that you come up with Rock Your World because he had been on the turf and that was his first dirt race. I was kind of hoping most of the East Coast handicappers wouldn't view it that way because we normally get good odds on California horses in these Eastern races. And I'm with you. He did look awesome in the Santa Anita Derby. He is one thing I noticed about him. They showed a back shot of the from behind as they were finishing the race, and his rear end has got to be another quarter as wide as Medina Spirit. So I mean, he was the man on the track that day. He was the stud, and he just mowed him over.
What I liked about him was when he was coming down the stretch, he dead straight path, absolutely focused. I'll never forget the remarks. I think it was Aidan O'Brien. He had Mendelssohn in the Derby a couple of years ago, who was about the second or third choice. And I like Mendelssohn. He's a European championship runner, has his own private jet that flies. The horse has his own jet that flies him around the world, okay? His owners, fly in coach, but he's on his own private jet. And he got knocked sideways out of the gate, got mugged again on the backstretch, and his jockey, I think it was Ryan Moore, just stopped him, and properly so, stop trying. Why put the horse through this? He has no chance. O'Brien's remarks after the race, if I remember correctly, were nothing in Europe can prepare a horse for Kentucky Derby. There is no experience in European racing that prepares a horse for what he hits in the Kentucky Derby. The 150,000 people, the wall of noise, the 20 horses, all of that. And so you really look for a horse that won't go crazy on you, a horse that has equanimity, a horse that has a sense of presence and maturity and absolute focus. And yes, he got a clean trip. Yes, he was never really challenged, didn't get banged around. He won't get that. He may get banged around a little bit in Louisville, but from everything I've seen, Rock Your World has the solidity and focus that I look for. So you can find me at corpjester.com, CORPJESTER, Mark Klein, KLEIN on YouTube, comedian Mark Klein on YouTube. Some videos will come up there. And you can email me, corpjester@hotmail.com, questions and comments. I'm glad to meet anybody online. And that's who I am and what I do. And horse racing is my passion, comedy is my living, and my family's the important world to me. So that's who I am.
Well, you were a fantastic guest for us. I want to thank you very much, Trip. Do you have any closing comments?
Well, since my father-in-law, Mark, I managed to avoid marriage for 50 some odd years and just married into the Klein family in beautiful St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm learning about Judaism after a year and a half. I think it's going to stick. I think this religion's going to stay around for a while. So congratulations.
Jews in Kentucky, we believe if you eat ham, you'll never hit the daily double again. We have our own set of beliefs that are just unique to our culture here. So mazel tov to you and good luck with all of that.
Okay, Mark, you've been a great guest. We're going to have another great guest coming up. Dennis, you've done an amazing job booking this thing. Fred Wallen will be up next. We'll be back after this short break.
When I'm at the track, I get all my information from the Thoroughbred forecast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is our Thoroughbred Racing Forecast edition for the 2021 Kentucky Derby. Our next guest is known to everyone in the sports betting world and the sports world, and that is the one and only Fred Wallen. Fred has his own show on Sirius XM and TuneIn app called Sports Overnight America. Every Friday and Saturday nights at 10 and 12, you can hear Mr. Wallen speaking sports. There's nobody in the country that knows what's going on about sports more than Fred. Since we're on a horse racing show here, tell us how you got involved in horse racing. Your first remembrances must have been a long time ago.
A very long time ago. My dad was a gambler, played poker. We had poker games in the house by the time I was 5, but he wasn't a horse player. My mom, on the other hand, is from Detroit. Her dad is from Russia. He could speak 4 languages, but he couldn't read English. He loved the track. He couldn't read the racing form. So he dragged, and my mom was the youngest of 5 kids, over the border to Windsor, Ontario, to wager on horses, and she'd have to read the racing form to him. All right, so they come out here, and I'm 5 years of age, and my mother wants my dad and Fred to get closer together. Let's go to the track. We lived in Culver City, California, 6 miles from Inglewood. I go there, and I've been a math guy my whole life. A whole world exploded. My whole life, it was like years later, she said, I saw your eyes open up. It was like, I saw the numbers on my dad taught me to do an earn run average when I was 5 years of age, okay? So now we're like in 2nd grade, and we didn't have computers. We had beads. I didn't need beads. Teacher said, 2nd grade, why don't you need beads? And I said, because my dad taught me to do ERAs. I could do it in my head, so I don't need beads. So the point is, now I get to the track. Numbers. Those numbers have cost me a lot of money over the years. That's all I can tell you.
I thought you were going to go the other direction with that one and say, I learned early and now I figured it out.
It's a tough game to beat. And I've tried Dutching. I've tried everything. And, I'm 16. I get my driver's license. And again, now I live in the Valley. I'm still living in Culver City with my parents. And I want to go to the track. I tried twice to get in at 16. They wouldn't let me. So now I start begging my mom, my dad, and my aunt. My dad works. My mom doesn't want to go because she's got other kids. So I dragged my aunt there, and true story, 6 horses in a field. I got 7-5 favorite, a 5-2 favorite, maybe a 6-1, an 8-1, and a 220 and 30 to 1s. I bet enough that as long as one horse doesn't win, I got to make a couple $100. And I had to decide between the 3 and the 4 horse. One was like 6-1 and one was like 8-1. So of course, Fred chose the wrong one. The horse wins by 9 lengths. And at 16, I was I understood it younger than this, but I did understand that horse racing is a tough game.
Well, if you know the math, it makes it a little easier though. But yeah, I agree. You have to pretty much follow it every day of the week if you're going to stay in the game of picking the winners. So Tripp, what do you have to say to Fred?
The Supreme Court decision making gambling legal on a state-by-state basis is made sports betting go through the roof. How about on the race side of things? How healthy is the race betting world, and where do you see it in the next couple of years?
Well, again, I mean, people, once the pandemic is over and you're still alive, you're going to want to get out there and get out there very often. So I think, and at this point, I think it's only going to grow from that aspect. But again, it's like, are we sure it's going to be over? When is it going to be over? The Kentucky Derby, of course, a key ingredient, obviously, every year. Hey, by the way, did you know that in the 146 years of the Kentucky Derby, 19 horses who started their name with the letter S have won S. There are 3 horses in this race at this point that their name starts with a letter S. Now, you might think it's crazy, but there's 26 letters in the alphabet, and if one letter can win 19 times and 146 times, that's 4 to 1. You're getting 4 to 1 on your money. I might throw a few bucks on one of the 3 horses that start with the letter S.
That would be soup and sandwiches.
Yeah. That's it. I mean,
He's 32 to 1. He opens 32 to 1, soup and sandwiches. So that S right there would be a good one to pop on.
The first Kentucky Derby I remember was 58. Silky Sullivan had become my hero. My dad and my dad wasn't into the gambling side of horse racing, but we watched the races together. And again, at that point, Saturday afternoon, maybe with John Forsythe, I think, or somebody was hosting it locally in Los Angeles. But anyways, Silky Sullivan, I started reading about the horse, and I became a lover of Silky Sullivan. And of course, he broke my heart in the Kentucky Derby. Tim Tam wins it. And then, but I stayed in contact. In fact, I'll tell you how crazy it is. Silky Sullivan lived into the 70s, like 76 or 77. I actually called my mom and dad when I read it in the newspaper that Silky Sullivan had passed. I said, "Do you know who died?" And and of course they went crazy. Who? And it was Silky Sullivan.
Silky Sullivan.
But so I honestly, I like, and I think a lot of people follow the horses that come from way behind. And it seems like, let's say in the Belmont, it would make some sense to bet on that kind of a horse, but historically it doesn't. Even with the long stretch, you can bet on the horses that are 20 lengths behind and they never quite make it. But Silky Sullivan was like sometimes be 30 lengths behind, and of course would win most of the time until Tim Tam broke his heart. And I think he finished 8th or 10th in the 58 to Kentucky Derby. That's the first one I really remember to this day. Never forget.
Fire line, Silky Sullivan on the outside. Silky Sullivan is now fourth. Silky Sullivan is third. Here comes Silky Sullivan on the outside.
Fred, we were talking about the health of the sports business, and you think the big key is when the pandemic is over and we get people back in. But racing was able to stay pretty stable throughout. Obviously they lost money, a lot of money gambling, but they were able to really stay solid. How important is that to racing in the future?
Oh, it's very important. And again, somebody like me, even though I think that I see the negatives in all sports, if there are negatives, still followed horse racing and other sports, but you follow it more closely, I think, if there were fans in the stands. And I disagree sometimes. It's like, I don't think horses are stupid. I think horses can hear applause. I know Silky Sullivan could hear the applause. So what I'm telling you is that I think horses can hear the crowd. And I think that helps if you're, trying to hold on or trying to come from behind. So I think that fans do make a difference for horses and jockeys and everybody. Maybe not as much as in basketball or baseball, but I think horses are not stupid animals. I think they can hear the crowd, and I think it helps if they're applauding one particular.
Fred, what's your favorite track? You've been to a bunch of tracks. What's your favorite track?
I loved Hollywood Park. Again, I worked my college schedule around going to Hollywood Park or Santa Anita. I'd take a couple classes in the morning. I'd go to the track for 4 hours. I would have to come back and take a night class to make up for the fact that I was either winning or losing at Santa Anita or Hollywood Park. I was considered like a radical in the 70s. But it was interesting that I had friends who wouldn't admit they were into sports because that would be too establishment. But if you knew how many guys and gals I turned into horse racing junkies, you wouldn't believe it. I dragged them to Hollywood Park or Santa Anita. Some of them I didn't see for 30 years afterwards. And then I didn't even realize. And then one out of the blue, somebody called me, and then we started, my wife and I and his wife we started going out to dinner, and he told me he goes to the track like almost every day, and he thanks me for it. So it's, even radicals of the 70s love horse racing, and he became a definite horse racing junkie. So it's a sport that anybody can enjoy, even the most radical of the radicals.
I tell you what, I loved Hollywood Park too. I hated to see that place go. I love Bay Meadows too. Hated to see that place go. But Southern California, we have a little bit better situation with the palm trees and the warm breezes as opposed to Aqueduct and Churchill down in the rain. So it's very nice to go to the racetracks in California.
Yeah, I got one story to tell you guys that may be hard to believe, but I swear to you, it's true. I'm in college, and that point, I don't think we had ATM, so I had to drive from the Valley to Beverly Hills. I've only had 2 tickets in 50 years of driving. Okay, one of my tickets was on the way to the bank to pick up money to go to the track. So I got a ticket, picked up the money, and we drove to Del Mar. And I swear I lost all 8 races, and not a lot. I'm not a big bettor, so but it hurts. Okay, on the way back. We're going back, and then I say, Los Alamitos is on the way back. They got night racing, and the people I was with said, "You sure?" Yeah. So I lost the first 7 races at Los Alamitos. So 0 for 15 in a ticket, all on the same day.
Well, I put you on the rock bottom of the profit level. The ROI didn't turn out so well for you that day. But I do have a feeling you hit your share of them because you know way too much about it, Fred, for us to sit here and think that you don't.
I've hit some long shots. I've hit some exactas and trifectas and things like that, sort of make up for the fact, like right now, like for horse racing aside, on FanDuel, you can play for a nickel or a dime, a nickel or a quarter. Okay, so I may lose most of the time, but on the other hand, I've won 3,000. I won 2,800. So my point is, you can lose a lot of nickels if you win the 3,000 and the 2,800. It's just a question of keep continuing to play, because eventually you're going to hit big. And you're on FanDuel or DraftKings, you're up against 120,000 people, to win the $3,000. And a couple of times I've done that. But it's the same thing with horse racing. If you hit a couple of trifectas and you have a long shot in the middle, you can make some big bucks. So I laugh about you lose, more times than you win. It doesn't mean you lose more money in the long run. That's
there
all.
You go. That's the trick. That's the trick right there. Take small amount of money, turn it into a large amount of money, and keep with that premise. And then you don't go broke. Then you're never out of your bankroll, and you're always in the game. That's good advice for everybody. So, Fred, have you had a chance to look at any of the horse races? Who do you think is going to win this year? Do you have any opinion?
Well, a horse essential quality 5 for 5. I mean, so I don't see any negatives in the horse. I mean, so it's like, and I read something on the web, Hank Goldberg, who's hot. I mean, he had last year's winner and the whole thing, tis the law. So, he likes, I think, essential quality. I don't know. It's Medina Spirit is out there, and one of those 3 that start with an S. Who knows? I mean, it's
well, let's see. There's Soup and Salad at 32-1. Sainthood doesn't have a price on it yet. I don't know who the other S horse is. Super Stock. Super Stock's 32-1.
So I mean, they obviously they're long shots, but
if you box those and hit it,
you never have to work again.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well, Fred, if you're doing something you love, it's not work anyway. And you've been in the sports industry for a long time and you love it. And God bless. What a great way to make a living.
Well, the one thing, you talk about a bucket list. I've been to World Series. I've been to All-Star games. I've been to NBA championship. I did the Dodger game, the Dodger talk after Kirk Gibson's home run, all kinds of things. I've never been to Kentucky Derby. 5 years, if I'm still above ground, I would like to go to the Kentucky Derby and be there in person. And I'll gamble that the pandemic is gone at that point, and it'd be something that I, will never forget, and drag some family members and have a good weekend of it.
Same here. I've never been to the Derby. We've always been working. I don't know if you have, Trip. Have you?
I have not. I've been lucky enough. So I've done World Series, Final Four, Super Bowl, bunch of Super Bowls, NHL Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals. But The Derby. Oh, and being a NASCAR, working for NASCAR and for IndyCar, I've never done a 500. So 500 in the Kentucky Derby, month of May, to be back in the Midwest, that would be pretty good.
Yeah, I've never been there either. I think we better take the show there next year or when COVID is finished, because we don't want to be there without Fred.
Okay, well, sounds good.
But I do think we all should go there and film the next show, because if the pandemic's over, it's our turn to be there.
It sounds great. Fred, as usual, you're a lot of fun and we appreciate it. How do people get in touch with you if they want to, first of all, listen to your show? What's the best way?
Sirius 217 XM 203. Tune in Friday night at 10 p.m., Saturday night, Sunday morning at midnight. Sometimes it even reruns on Sunday night, late night, depending on when they want to put it up there. You can always go to Sports Byline, sportsbyline.com. And my email would be sportsfred@aol.com, sportsfred@aol.com. And guys, I swear to you, as I say goodbye, in 1996 or 7, AOL called me, offered me $500 for that email. And I said, no, I do talk shows. I can't change. I can't be Sports Fred 412. I got to be Sports Fred. So I turned down the $500, and I'm one of the few people that still have AOL, because it's been with me since 1995.
Yeah, and that's what everybody says. AOL.com. You sure that's it? Yep, that's it. SportsFred@AOL.com. Let me add something to that. I've been on Fred's show. I had the pleasure of working with him over the last few years, and that show on Friday night is one of the best shows there is. Not only does he delve back into the history of sports, but he's always got something current on there about the Dodgers or baseball or football or even horse racing. He has me on to talk about that once in a while, and it's on sportsbyline.com at 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays, and it's also on the TuneIn app, where you can listen to it most anytime. And that's a good spot, as well as all the Sirius XM stations. So it's really a pleasure to have a superstar like Fred on the show. Thank you very much, Fred.
Hey, Trip, thank you. And of course, thank everybody. And let's go forward with horse racing.
Okay, buddy.
When we come back after this short break, the money time, Dennis is going to be giving out his picks. We'll be right back.
While we're talking about betting on the Kentucky Derby, there's some things you need to know about the betting platforms across the United States. Each outlet is now fighting for your gambling dollars, whether it's NYRA in New York, Twin Spires in Kentucky, or Stronach in California. These betting platforms, along with TVG, a national TV station, are fighting for your gambling dollars and offering such minuscule bonuses that it's really not worth it to take the chance. We here in Nevada are unlucky because we are unable to be on any of those betting platforms. So what we have done, as we've always done for the last 40 years here at the TSI network, we have found a betting platform where the large players can play and get a rebate. If you'd like more information on this betting platform, open to Americans, that you can bet on all of the games or all of the races and get parimutuel return plus a rebate, just give us a call at 1-888-604-6863. That's 1-888-604-6863. We'll be glad to tell you how you can get on this betting platform. And believe me, it's a great rebate system. However, you must be a large player to take advantage of this. If you're not a large player, please just give us a call and we'll send you to the right platform in your area. Thank you, and we'll be right back. When we're talking about wagering strategies for the big races like the Kentucky Derby, there are certain things that you do in a race like this that you don't normally do at the regular racetrack on a regular basis. And that is, you have to take a deeper look at the exotic wagers. We're going to take a deep look at the exotic wagers, and we'll be right back with that information and our final selections for this year's Derby.
I get my winners from Dennis Tobler.
And welcome back to the show. Now the time in the show where we're going to make money for everyone. But first, let's go back down memory lane. Last time we did a show, Dennis had a pretty good pick, and that pick went on to win the Triple Crown. Let's take a look.
I'm not going to waste any time with this year's strategy because it's pretty simple. A few years back, I gave you American Pharaoh, and I told you he would win the Triple Crown, which he did. This year, I'm going to do the same thing. My pick to win this year's Triple Crown is Justified. That's right, Justified. He's coming off of only 3 races in his career, but they're 3 of the biggest races I have ever seen. His last race was the Santa Anita Derby, where he beat last year's 2-year-old champion by 3 or 4 open lengths, and he ran outside the whole way. When he gets to Kentucky, he should have too much speed for this field, and I fully expect him to win handily. And then I expect him to go on and win the Preakness and Belmont as well. Well, thank you very much, Trip. Yeah, it's a great pleasure of mine to introduce a person who I've got working for the TSI network here in Las Vegas now. His name's Jeff Kohler. He has extensive horse racing background and information, and he's just been a great addition to the team. And I'm really pleased to say this is his initial appearance, and I expect the best from him. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for having me today. It's great to be here.
Well, Jeff, you have got a great background for being really an expert. And a lot of guys, you know, their background is mathematics. They've been sports bettors. They get into racing, but you've worked in the stables. You have a very, very eclectic background. How did you develop a love of horses? And tell me a little bit about yourself.
It's nice to be eclectic. Thank you, Trev. Interestingly, I was working in politics. I was working for a state legislature, and it just so happened that next to the state capitol building was an off-track betting facility. And as you can imagine, sitting there for hours at a time reading tax policy, you can believe how boring that was. So it was great to blow off steam on my lunch hour and bet on the horses, and that's really how I got involved initially in horse racing.
But you were obviously a smart guy. You served in the military. You worked slinging some of the same thing that people do in the stables. You decided that to learn a lot more about the sport, you wanted to go really get in at the bottom. Talk about that, if you will.
I really did. You know, I was at Santa Anita Park one afternoon and watching the races, and with my fledgling comedy career, such as it was in Hollywood at that time. So I'm sitting here thinking, I could do this. This looks fascinating. Why do I have to just be a fan? And it's really the cool thing about racing. If you're a Dodgers fan, you can't just walk out of the stands and say, "Hey, can I help out on the field?" I mean, that option's not available. But I was really lucky. I got to go to work in a sport that I'd grown to love, and I absolutely started at the bottom, no question. My first morning was at 4:30, and there was either a pitchfork in my hand or an angry horse that morning. So I got baptized in the fire real quickly, but I was real lucky. I got hooked up with some really good trainers throughout the years. So and
does that perspective give you something, maybe a leg up on other players when it comes to helping make money?
Oh, absolutely, no question. Because I can read a racing forum. I used to read the racing forum as a fan, but now I'm reading the racing forum or something else, and I'm seeing it very differently because I have an idea of maybe what's going through the trainer's mind. You know, why is this horse in this race? What's going on here? So it sure gives me a different perspective, and I really like that.
Okay, well, Dennis, now's the time we've all been waiting for. We'll take it away.
Okay, well, first of all, let's have Jeff run through the field, give us some information about the race, and he'll give a rundown in his top 4 selections, and we'll come back to me and I'll follow him up. Go ahead, Jeff. Tell us about the race.
All right. Well, today is the 147th running of the Kentucky Derby. And every year is obvious. It's the first Saturday in May, except for last year. It's nice to be back on the first Saturday in May this year. It's going to be about 50,000 people. They generally get about 150 at Churchill Downs in Louisville for the Derby. This year, it's going to be about 50,000 they're letting in the gates. But it's a $3 million race. The winning owner will walk away with $1.8 million. Not bad for 2 minutes of work. And it's going to be run at 1.25 miles. That's the standard Derby distance. Every rider is going to be carrying 126 pounds. It's all colts this year. They're all 3-year-olds every year. Fillies can run in the Derby. However, this year it's all colt.
Okay, very good. And it looks like there will be some crowd in the stands, so there will be some cheering too. So that'll be good. Take us through how you see the race laying out. Go ahead and spend some time and lay it out for us. How you see your picks come to the top.
This is going to be an interesting race. Looking at the post positions, we're going to have a lot of speed in the middle on this race. The winner of the Louisiana Derby, Hot Rod Charlie, is breaking from the 8th spot. My horse, Midnight Bourbon, is next to him. I don't want to get too much into post positions right now, but I don't see any problems with post position. I think we're looking at essentially about 4 horses in this race. We're looking at the Santa Anita Derby winner, Rock Your World. We're looking at the 2nd place horse in the Louisiana Derby, Midnight Bourbon. I'm really liking right now this new horse that's come along, Medina Spears. Not a new horse. He's been running throughout the Derby trail, but finished 2nd in the Santa Anita Derby. Medina Spirit, Mike Smith will be aboard that horse. And I think there's a lot of potential for a really great trifecta or superfecta in this race, because I think there will be a lot of closing speed. But those are the main horses that I'm looking at right now, Dennis.
So you think the speed will go out and something will come from behind? We know the weather is going to be decent. And what do you think? Tell us your order finish.
My order of finish and the wager that I am placing, I have Rock Your World and Midnight Bourbon keyed on top. I again had Midnight Bourbon, Rock Your World, and Medina Spirit in the 2nd place. I'm doing the same 3 horses in the 3rd place. I'm probably also going to throw in Highly Motivated based on his great performance against Essential Quality in the Bluegrass Stakes. And I'm also going to throw in Superstock, who closed strongly in the Florida Derby. That's going to be what my wager looks like. That's going to be the moneymaker.
That's the money ticket. Give us the horses again in 1, 2, 3, 4 order, if you could.
Sure. Rock Your World in 1st, Midnight Bourbon in 2nd, Medina Spirit in 3rd, and Highly Motivated in 4th.
Okay, I think that's a lock because you had to think about that one. So I like that ticket there.
Jeff, you showed a lot of suspense there. Our viewers were on the edge of their seats. Are you playing us, or do you just were thinking about it?
No, I wasn't thinking about it. I have not gotten a lot of sleep lately because I've been really looking at this field, and I've been going through these past performances, and I'm just not seeing a lot of bottom speed that gives me a lot of faith to put most of these other horses to have them closing the third place. There's going to be a lot of long shots on the board. And for a reason, because they are truly long shots. We simply aren't going to have any big surprises this year. My horse, Rock Your World, currently the morning line is, I think, 5-1. That's a solid price on that horse. But Midnight Bourbon is 20-1 currently in the morning line, 20-1. And this is a horse that displayed great speed against Hot Rod Charlie down in New Orleans in the Louisiana Derby. And he has Mike Smith aboard, who you mentioned Dennis's picking of Justify. Of course, Mike Smith won the Triple Crown on Justify. So if you give me a Triple Crown winning jockey on a long shot horse like that, you better believe I'm jumping on it. So I'm really liking Midnight Bourbon right now.
Well, that's a good long shot, and certainly all those horses can be used in the verticals and the horizontal wagers. So listen closely, and we'll post the names in order. So thanks very much, Jeff. That was great information, and good luck to you, and good luck for your ticket.
Right. Thank you, Dennis.
Well, Dennis, Jeff is a find, and really enjoyed getting a chance to listen to him. But you know what? You're the guy who picked Justified. What's your where are you going to put your money on this Saturday?
Well, I agree with Jeff wholeheartedly that there's a bunch of also ran horses in this race. The Kentucky Derby, ever since it went to the point system where the horses have to win graded stakes races to get entry into the Derby, you're not going to see any big long shots anymore. If Midnight Bourbon comes in, that will be a big price, and that will be a telltale sign. However, I'm with him. I think 4 or 5 horses out of the 20 horses in the field are the only ones that have the chance. We're looking at a 2-year-old champion here in Essential Quality, who has never been beaten. And to this point, he hasn't gotten a lot of press because he's simply nothing to write about. He just wins every time out. He's pointed towards this race. He's jogged his workouts coming into this race. He will be the favorite, and he'll probably be the heavy favorite. I'm not going to look much past him because I'm going to use him as keys in my vertical and horizontal wagers, and I may put him in second place in some of the horizontals. However, I think Essential Quality is the cream of the crop in this field. He's the man. He's got the experience, and he's also got a great jockey and a great trainer. I look for Essential Quality to end up in first place in this one. Second and third place, I've got Rock Your World along with Jeff and Hot Rod Charlie. Hot Rod Charlie did run a good bang-up race in Louisiana, and they really have high hopes for him in California. And I watched his work for the Derby work the other day, and it was fantastic. So I'm going to go with Hot Rod Charlie too. So I'm going to use Rock Your World and Hot Rod Charlie in the second positions. And in the third position, I'm going to use Medina Spirit. So I'm going to add Hot Rod Charlie, Rock Your World, and Medina Spirit in the third position. And then if you want to stretch out to the superfecta, just put an all in the fourth position and hope something long comes in. And then, of course, you can put Essential Quality in the second position with Rock Your World and Hot Rod Charlie in the in the first position. Second position would be Essential Quality, and then you can do an all, or you can just do the horses that I've mentioned. Mix and match Jeff and my selections, and don't forget that you can always get more information from Jeff Kohler on Facebook at Thoroughbred Racing Forecast. That's Jeff Kohler on his Facebook's page for the horses is Thoroughbred Racing Forecast. To get a hold of me, you want to call 888-604-6863. That's 888-604-6863. And we'll be glad to take care of you. We want to also thank everybody that's been on the show this week. It's been a terrific show, and I hope everybody can cash out. But from the looks of things from the Kentucky Derby this year, it's another year of top quality horses running against some also-rans, and we look for the ones that are single-digit favorites to come in 1, 2, 3, or 4. And if not, it's Midnight Bourbon, Jeff's long shot. So there you have it from Las Vegas.
Well, Dennis, thanks so much. And again, you mentioned Fred, Mark, Jeff. We've had great guests on this show. We've had some humor. We've had some great insight. We've had a curmudgeon out in LA complaining about the Dodgers having a section for people with a vaccine.
I got to say something. I have to say something about Fred Wallen. I spent half the night trying to wrap my head around how he figures each horse in the field with the name S is going off at 4-1 historically. So if that's one that anybody can figure out, well, let me know, because there's 3 horses in this race that start with the letter S. And we don't have any of them anywhere close.
No, I noticed we did not. So what the heck? But we've had a lot of fun. And you know what, Dennis? I think we're going to do this again for the Preakness.
Yes, sir. We are going to do it again for the Preakness. Let's hope we can head on down the road for a Triple Crown on the Belmont, too.
That would be fantastic. And you gave out the last Triple Crown winner. And so it's worth it to listen to our experts on this show.
Before we go, I wanted to say a special congratulations to Trip Mitchell. Trip has just recently won this golden statuette trophy for his work on my documentary, Now Place Your Bets, The History of Sports Betting in America. Trip won the award for script narration, and it's a big one because it was an international film festival. So congratulations, Trip. Next time I see you, you get the gold statuette trophy.
Well, that I'm just honored to be nominated, but much better to win. That's the key. And Dennis, thanks for all your winning. Our guests today have been fantastic. And, Fred Wallen, just on a personal level, I just started out in broadcasting and he was the man. That Valley show brought in the big money at the network. And so it's just fun to catch up with Fred again and other guests and Mark, what a great guy he is, really knows the horses.
Fine job.
And your handicapper, I think he's got a great future ahead of us.
Yes, sir. Jeff Kohler did a great job too. So we just want to thank you though, because you're the one star at the top that keeps everything rolling together. So thank you, Trip. Really appreciate all your work.
Be sure and check us out and like us on Facebook at Thoroughbred Racing Forecast. We'll have photos of the shoot and a lot of information. So check us out on Facebook at Thoroughbred Racing Forecast.
Want to thank Lee Spencer, who put it all together for Let's Do Something Productions. And for Dennis, I'm Trip Mitchell saying we'll see you at the track.